Hey guys, it's Julian. Today, as you can see, I'm full screen and I'm here with a little bit of a different type of video, which is going to be talking a little bit more about the philosophy and kind of like mindset behind making music. A lot of times, when I was first starting, or even up until recently, when I couldn't really get my music to sound the way that I wanted it to, or when I couldn't get it on that like high quality level that I wanted, it was honestly more often than not just because I had the wrong mindset and I wasn't really approaching it the right way in my mind. So I want to make a few videos like this. This will be the first one. Just kind of talking about like I said, like mindset stuff, things to think about, and kind of like just how to approach it in the right way to make the best possible music. So let's take a moment here, light a candle. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how understanding storytelling can help your music. So storytelling, as you know, is like movies, books, video games, stuff like that, where you get from point A to point B and it tells the story of how all that happened in between. And it's kind of like a cheat code for making music, I feel like. And the reason for this is just because of really the attention to detail. I feel like, a good example of what I'm talking about is like kind of writing characters in a story. For example, when you're writing a character in a story, you never just write a character as like, this is Julian, he makes music. It's like, no, you write it like, this is Julian, he makes music, he feels this very strongly. It's like there's more depth to it. You're kind of like, you're not just trying to make something that's one-dimensional and just surface level. You're trying to really make it feel like a real person and like a real, like just somebody you would really know. So I think this can really help with making music because, when you're making sounds, you never want to just make them one-dimensional, right? You don't want to just make like a saw wave lead or like a dry piano sound. You want to make a piano sound that makes you feel like something. You want to make a saw lead that sort of like, is uplifting or gives a certain emotion. And so I think if you kind of think about it with that mindset, it can come a little bit easier. Like, again, this is one of those things. Like, when I was first starting, I just thought of it as like, okay, you just need a saw wave lead, and that's all it is, a saw wave lead. But again, when you really try to think of it from this approach, it can really take it to another level, and it's just in your mind, and then just kind of like mapping that out into the musical stuff. Another thing here with storytelling is that every element is there to carry out something important for the story. When you write like a really, really solid, like I said, like a movie or a book or something like that, every element or every character or pretty much everything needs to be there. It's necessary. It's helping to carry along the story. And this is also a thing with music. Again, if we think of like these different characters as sounds or like, I don't know, maybe effects in your music or stuff like that, it's like, this is again a thing with beginners. Like a lot of times when you're a beginner, it can be easy to just throw stuff in. But when you really know how to put a song together, you start to figure out like, okay, like this lead is here because it helps pull us in, through these parts. Or maybe I have this effects in this spot because it helps pull it to the next part. Or maybe you have like a certain pad because it helps to kind of fill out the musical stuff and it helps to tell the emotion that you're trying to tell more in whichever given part. So it's like stuff like that as well. I just think that there's a particular emphasis placed on how important each element is and how it really works in terms of like the overall story as opposed to just sort of like having an element to have an element. There's a certain emphasis placed on that in storytelling that isn't quite or is a little bit more overlooked in music, I feel like. And then another thing that I've learned from storytelling is like if you get stuck, a lot of times it's not just because you're stuck at this point and the song is just stuck. It's actually because you may have messed something up earlier. So this is, again, a lot more, I would say, like highlighted in storytelling because you're trying to write a cohesive story. So it's clear, like, if you're stuck and can't figure out where to go next, maybe it's because earlier on you wrote yourself into a corner with something. And it's the same thing with music. A lot of times, like, again, when you're a beginner, will have, like, a project file or a song you've been stuck on for a little while and you just can't seem to figure out where to take it next. Well, maybe that's not just because the song is stuck. Maybe that's just because there's something earlier on in the track that you could go and fix, and then all of a sudden you would figure it out. Or maybe there's something about like a certain sound, like you could kind of rework it or do something to it to give it more options for moving forward. Stuff like that. It's just, again, one of those things that I think is highlighted a lot more in storytelling. And yeah, and then the other thing that I want to talk about here is that I feel like when writing a book or writing a movie or something, every story needs to be told for a reason. Like, the best movies, the best books, the best video games, or whatever it is that tells a story, they always feel like there's a reason for that story. It doesn't just exist just because the author wanted to tell you that. It exists because there's something to be gained from it, and you feel like you've not necessarily changed when you're on the other side of it, but you've definitely learned something, and it's giving you something that's valid for your own life. And I think this is the same with music. You know, a lot of times maybe it's not as pertinent because it's not literally, you know, telling a story with words, but a lot of times with music I feel like, you know, a lot of music just exists just to exist, but the songs that people really, really connect with, the music that people really love and have lifelong memories of and all that kind of stuff, music that feels like it exists for a reason. You know, it's telling something that you can't get somewhere else, or it's communicating some kind of emotion in a way that somebody else wasn't able to communicate that resonates with people. And I think this is really important to think about. It's just, like I said, every story needs to be told for a reason, or every good story, I should say, needs to be told for a reason. And if you can kind of focus your music more around that, it will come out a lot better, I think. Again, all of these things, it's more so like the philosophy and the mindset behind making music that can get you kind of stuck sometimes than it is actually knowing how to make music. Like, you can know all day how to EQ something or how to compress something or how to make a certain type of sound. But if you can't really like understand these kinds of things behind why you put those sounds together and how you put those sounds together and sort of like the ultimate goal, you're not really going to get anywhere. So that's pretty much it for this one. Like I said, just wanted to do a little bit of a different type of video, sort of breaking down some ideas and stuff that I've learned from understanding storytelling. I definitely recommend studying it. Like, honestly, I got into it just because I started watching like video essays on YouTube and stuff about different books and movies and stuff. But I definitely think it's a good way to kind of get to understand this art form more, because there are things, like I said, it's just these things that a lot of emphasis is placed on in storytelling, and not as much emphasis is placed on in kind of like popular music tutorials and stuff. So I think you can really learn a lot from it. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.